Good Monday afternoon. My name is Jerry Miller. This is the I Love CVille Show. Thank you for joining us on the I Love CVille Network. We're live in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille Network. So much news on today's program. Give the show a like and a share on any of the Facebook pages you're watching. If you're watching on Instagram, welcome to the broadcast. Of course, live on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, and podcasts as well. A lot of news on today's program. Lockn, the festival in Nelson County, Hasta Luego 2020, hopefully 2021. A festival and festival organizers that have some financial difficulties are going to sidestep 2020 and head to 2021. We'll talk about that on the show. We have video coverage of the Black Lives Matter protest that happened on Friday. It originated at City Hall and matriculated all the way across the city of Charlottesville into Tonsler Park. We got video from that protest that we'll play for you. Splendora's on the downtown mall is closing. Terrible news. A women-owned business, a business that very much caters to families. Splendora is one of the gems on the Charlottesville downtown mall. We have students booted from housing at the University of Virginia. Will they show up in hotel rooms across Charlottesville and Albemarle County? That's the question I'm going to ask you. And I love Bodo's Bagels with a burning passion. And frankly speaking, if you say anything that's even perceived to be negative or constructive criticism about Bodo's Bagels, you are blasphemous in Charlottesville. I'm going to ask this question, despite the risk of being blasphemous. Is Bodo's Bagels and its drive-through concepts on Preston Avenue and on Route 29, are they dangerous for traffic patterns across the city in Albemarle County? That topic on today's show. Busch Gardens remains open in September. Parents in Massachusetts are protesting in the thousands against a state-mandated flu vaccine. So if parents in Boston will not take the flu vaccine, and the mandate is anybody that's a student 6 months old through college age must now get a flu vaccine in Massachusetts. Parents are protesting that. If they're protesting a flu vaccine, what are they going to do for a COVID vaccine when that's rolled out? Dede Smith is going to join us. We'll chat education with Dede. We're also going to talk about a pipeline. Folks, this is flying under the radar. I read the news as closely as anyone in Charlottesville, and I don't know much about an $80 million pipeline that's being planned for our area. We're going to talk about that with Dede Smith on the I Love CVille Show. We'll also talk school. Keith Smith is going to join us in the 1 o'clock hour to give us an update on the real estate market. And how about the story coming out of Tuscaloosa in Alabama? The administration at Alabama, leadership at the University of Alabama, is straight up telling professors, do not tell the students about COVID outbreaks. That story for you, along with NC State restarting football, and a new segment that we may roll out of this show and introduce into a standalone segment, Jerry Miller's Crystal Ball Predictions. One of the skills of being an entrepreneur and a businessman, and I think you've seen it with this network, we're able to kind of see a couple of steps ahead of where things are going. We're going to leverage that vision for a new segment called Crystal Ball Predictions. This show, thanks to a lot of folks, Ting Wireless Internet, saved $288 on Ting Wireless Internet through ilovecville.ting.com. That is the lowest price you can have for fiber internet, the best internet in Charlottesville. ilovecville.ting.com. We also want to give some props to Interstate Pest and Service Companies. This business for more than 50 years has proudly served Charlottesville and Central Virginia. Interstate Pest and Service Companies, a home's best friend. Love Interstate with a burning passion. Judah Wickhauer is our director. Why don't we go to headlines, please? The first headline that we need to get to is from Lockn. Now, folks, I don't think anyone thought that Lockn was going to actually happen. The organizers anticipated doing this. I don't think anyone else thought that Lockn, a festival that saw thousands of people camping out overnight, enjoying some beverages and then some at a festival, I don't think many folks saw this event actually taking place. The organizers had talked about of doing testing, on-site testing where the results would be delivered very quickly. The organizers talked about having Lockn where it was once you're on site, you had to stay on site and could not leave the Lockn grounds. It's just terribly unfortunate, and I'm going to talk about this maybe later in the week with Ray Cadell of Big Ray and the Cool Cats. Look, restaurants are getting a lot of attention for being ravaged because of COVID-19. If there's an industry that's been hit harder than restaurants, if there's an industry that's been hit harder than weddings and live events, if there's an industry that's been hit harder than sports because of COVID-19, it's music. And folks, music has been hit harder than any other space, category, industry, sector of business in the world. Live events, music, where thousands of people, tens of thousands of people congregate in an arena and in an open field, at a pavilion, at a concert hall, whatever it may be, it's just not happening. And I'm going to cut straight to the chase. The live streaming that musicians are doing, where they're playing their music through a live stream like this, while it is a small saving grace, you just do not have the energy of being in a packed arena, a packed festival, a packed pavilion, feeling the palpable buzz as your favorite musician comes on stage and plays songs that make you nostalgic or feel a sense of emotion. That's why we're fans of music. Music is the world's language. When we hear songs we enjoy, it literally makes us feel something in our bodies. Well, folks, one industry being impacted more than any other is this one. And you see it with Lockn. We'll try to put it in perspective with Big Ray later on this week on the I Love CVille Show as we spotlight what's really going down with music. The next headline happened right in front of our office. Judah, do you have that video you captured from the Black Lives Matter protest on Friday?
I've got it.
All right. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to play the video, and I'm going to talk over it. So lower the sound. For those that are watching on Facebook, look at the stream. Play it now. Go ahead and play it up now. Look at the stream. Look at the page. This literally happened in front of our I Love CVille studio. Now, we'll cut to the chase. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this. Friday's protest was very meager in attendance. In fact, I think there were more media at one time covering the protest than actual protesters. Did this have something to do with Dr. Richardson, the city manager of Charlottesville City, saying, if you protest and you organize an event without a permit and more than 50 people show up, we will pop you, we will fine you, we will slap you on the wrist, we will take money from your pocket? Perhaps. Perhaps. But on Friday, we saw maybe, I mean, you saw it, Judah. What did you count? Maybe 25 people in the protest? Maybe?
Probably a little more than that, but it didn't seem to be very strong.
Did not seem very strong at all. So we'll follow it. I think the protesting movement in the city of Charlottesville has had its legs cut out from under it because of these $500 fines for organizers. Time will tell. I will give City Hall some props. They waited until the social justice climate became a bit more stable before popping organizers of protests with fines. Had this strategy had been implemented in March or April, fresh after the murder of a black man in Minneapolis, George Floyd, I think you would have seen significant pushback and response. Now that it's August, almost September, and the citywide ordinance popping organizers $500 for breaking city rules in a COVID landscape, 50 people or more. You can't do that. You can't organize an event with 50 people or more. I think the city manager and City Hall did a good job of feeling the temperature in the community and waiting to roll this out. We will see. We will see. This $500 fine certainly influenced Friday's BLM protests. The next headline comes from the downtown mall and a business that means a lot to me. Splendora's on the downtown mall is closing. It's terribly unfortunate. We've heard rumors about this for a long period of time. It is a woman-owned business. So if you're a fan of businesses that are owned by females, by people of color, by minorities, this business undoubtedly a woman-owned business. It further increases the Charlottesville Empty Storefront Index. If you walk from the pavilion to the former ice park, you will see a vacancy rate that is undoubtedly double digits. For years, the vacancy rate on Charlottesville's downtown mall has operated at less than 1%, basically a 0% vacancy rate on the downtown mall. The Charlottesville Empty Storefront Index, something we coined and created here on the I Love CVille Network, shows a vacancy rate that is 15, 16% and climbing on the most important 8 blocks in Charlottesville. Splendora's a beautiful business. The lease on the building will last until November. The building itself will close their doors much sooner than that, in September, through September to be in fact. That'll give the owner October and change to move out of the building. Guys, I'm straight up nervous about the downtown mall. I've been in Charlottesville 20 years. I came as a bright-eyed, doe-eyed first year to attend the University of Virginia. Fall semester of my first year, after me and my buddies made some fake New Jersey IDs, we went to Miller's, where we listened to Agents of Good Roots play at the window at Miller's while drinking some pints of Budweiser and taking shots of tequila as fresh 18-year-olds in what was one of our first bar experiences outside of our home. At that point, as an 18-year-old at the University of Virginia, I fell in love with the downtown mall. I took it a step further by bringing my business here about 10 years ago. I took it a step further after that by buying real estate downtown. Now we own almost 10,000 square feet of downtown real estate and have 27 tenants, nearly paid off real estate, might I add to you. So we have skin in the game, and I have never been more fearful for my retirement, for a portfolio that I plan on passing along to my son, okay? I would really like to see an initiative from City Hall, from our esteemed city councilors, that makes an effort to drive people downtown. I've made the push many, many times on this network to turn the 8 blocks that is the downtown mall into a controlled beer garden, where from the pavilion to the ice park, you were able to walk around with beverages from the restaurants that are still open, and they're not many. If you do this, you can go to the center of the downtown mall through a kiosk that's run by somebody that the City Hall puts in that kiosk. You could buy a bracelet for $3 or $4. You put this bracelet on, you get a cup that's issued by the city, and you take that cup and you're able to fill it up at the Whiskey Jar, at the Bevadero, at Citizen Burger Bar, and you get that cup, you fill it up with beer, wine, or cocktails, and you can enjoy them all by walking on it. This solves a number of problems. The first problem is people ain't really eating inside. They want to be outside. Okay? So it allows people to utilize the space that is the downtown mall, the outside space that is not being utilized now. City Hall can then monetize the bracelets they sell to people and use that incremental revenue, a new found revenue source, to help make up a budget deficit that is tremendous for fiscal year 2021. The merchants win. The marketplace wins because it's openly telling City Hall it wants to be outside when enjoying its food and drink because of fear of COVID. City Hall wins because of incremental revenue. And on the back end, teachers, EMT, police, firefighters, our roads, our employees of the city, they win because they're not going to have their resources cut. It's creative thinking like I just offered to you that is without question, lacking from Charlottesville City Council. I look at our councilors and I see not a single business-oriented individual. Instead, I see 5 people reacting to events instead of planning accordingly to what's coming down the pipe. That's what entrepreneurs do, and that's what number ones at businesses do. Please, City Council, do something creative to help save an 8 blocks that is the heartbeat of Charlottesville, that without question is hemorrhaging and dying before our very eyes. The next headline, Judah Wickhauer, our director, comes, oh man, from UVA students getting booted from housing. This is such a messed up story. So hundreds of students on grounds at the University of Virginia, according to the Cavalier Daily, are being relocated, forced relocation, after university converted their housing to quarantine housing. The International Residential College, the IRC, Johnson, Malone, and Whedon houses, along with Shea House residents, were notified on Friday that their housing contracts would expire the next day at 8 p.m. Give me a break, UVA. On Friday, you tell hundreds of students that their housing contracts are expired the next day at 8 o'clock. You're telling these students of the International Residential College, the IRC, to get out of dorms and to go find off-campus housing. Well, if you have 36 hours to find housing and you're an 18 to 22-year-old that barely understands how life works, you're an 18 to 22-year-old that rely on mommy and daddy for so much still, what the hell are you going to do? So now you have hundreds of students on Friday that were ordered by UVA to get out of on-campus housing. And they were ordered to fend to them for themselves to find housing off campus. These hundreds of students, you know what they're doing? They're flooding hotel rooms as a stopgap until they can figure out off-campus housing, off-grounds housing. And what the University of Virginia has done is, besides screwing students, besides screwing their parents, besides making quarantining and the management of COVID more difficult for these hundreds of students who went in with a plan of attack, I'm going to live here, I'm going to manage COVID here, with these people who are committed to wearing masks around me, now they're asking these students to fend for themselves, and yet again, a Darwinistic move by the University of Virginia that survival of the fittest. These students are now flooding hotel rooms that otherwise could be used for the wedding and event space that is hanging on by a thread. Why would you do this, UVA? Why would you do this? Why would you not plan accordingly in advance? The same accountability that I'm holding City Council to of not having zero business mindset is the same thing I'm holding UVA accountable to. You knew this was going to happen, yet you took the money in the beginning and then you said get out of our housing because we're going to use it for quarantine. That's not right. Especially the International Residential College, a college that is home to international students. Why would you put more pressure on international students during a time of COVID? Why does that make sense? We'll continue to talk about this as the week progresses, but I'm straight up telling you, I'm seeing it at UNC Chapel Hill. I'm reading about it. At UNC Chapel Hill, students are leaving their dorms because they're forced out by schools, and they're choosing to go to hotel rooms where they're going to spend the fall semester learning virtually by themselves in a Best Western, in a Holiday Inn, in a Motel 6, in a Super 8. Is that the college experience you want for your son or daughter? And what does that do to the other business sectors that rely on hotel rooms? That, my friend, is a lack of vision. The next headline, and this is going to get me in trouble. Get ready for it. If you say anything whatsoever about Bodo's Bagels that is constructive criticism, or anything whatsoever about Bodo's Bagels that is perceived as negative, you're going to be called a blasphemous you-know-what in this town. Where I'm going to straight up say something, okay? And get ready for this. How many people have seen the drive-thru at Bodo's Bagels at either Preston Avenue or the drive-thru at Bodo's Bagels on Route 29 next to the English Inn? And you've seen this drive-thru at Bodo's Bagels not only wrapped onto Preston Avenue, but wrapped onto Route 29. Have you seen that? I'm going to ask this question to everybody that's watching. How? And I love Bodo's. I love Bodo's. I love Bodo's. I love Bodo's. Okay? I know you're going to hate me for saying this. I know you will be upset. But how does this makeshift drive-thru at Bodo's Bagels, how is it legitimately safe and legal for the drive-thru to consistently be wrapping down Preston Avenue? How is it safe and legal for the drive-thru to be consistently be wrapping down Route 29? How is this traffic pattern safe and legal? Do we need a car collision to be able to say, oh, this was a bad idea? Do we need someone to get hurt in a vehicle? Okay? How is this safe? Okay? I wait in that line, and the line moves fast in typical Bodo's fashion. I'll wait for a bacon, egg, and cheese, a sausage, egg, and cheese, an everything bagel with cream cheese, and a Caesar salad with 2 coffees. How is it legal for this drive-through to literally spill onto main roads? And I'm going to take it a step further. If you're a Chick-fil-A, if you're a Starbucks, and if you're a Panera Bread, just off the top of my head, these 3 brands have to go through rigorous permitting, rigorous planning processes, years to get a drive-through, years and hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a drive-through with the city in Albemarle County. Literally, that's what Starbucks and Chick-fil-A and Panera Bread have to go through. And those 3 brands, Panera, Starbucks, and Chick-fil-A, produce more tax revenue than any that I can think of in this town for their respective municipalities. Those brands who are producing buku tax revenue have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in permitting and time to get a drive-through that's safe for the city and the county. Conversely, Bodo's is able to put up a pop-up tent and to do a drive-through in the back of a napkin, a sketch on the back of a napkin, and the vehicles are spilling onto Precedent to Route 29, and they don't have to go through the years and hundreds of thousands of permitting dollars to do this drive-through. As a result, you have a drive-through lane that is making it unsafe to drive on certain roads. Now, you're going to hate me for saying that, but this entire show is to bring up topics in this community that I see and to bring it to your attention and to allow you to make your own decisions. And I understand we all have an affinity for this brand, and I love it just as much as you do. But boys and girls, what is happening is not safe. And I don't want to see a collision before we realize that. A couple more topics before we get to you, Dede Smith. Dede Smith, if you're watching, I can't wait to talk with you. Former Vice Mayor, Charlottesville City Council, a committed ambassador to education in this town, a committed ambassador and evangelist against a pipeline that's coming to Albemarle County, and she's going to give you that news. Okay? Two more items out of the notebook, Dede, before we get to you very quickly. Busch Gardens will remain open this September. Judah, get that headline on screen. Busch Gardens stays open in September. Kings Dominion is not opening, but Busch Gardens is going to open. They're going to do 2 1,000 people shifts. They'll do a 1,000 people allowed in Busch Gardens in September early and 1,000 people allowed late in the day. Remember, Virginia allows theme parks for 1,000 people or less. So they're breaking that up into 2 different shifts at Busch Gardens. Busch Gardens in Williamsburg stays open for September. Kings Dominion has not opened this year since COVID. The next headline, parents in Boston and in Massachusetts are protesting a flu vaccine. Very quickly, the state of Massachusetts is requiring any students 6 months old through college age to get a flu vaccine to prevent flu and COVID from spreading in Massachusetts. We have thousands of parents protesting outside in Boston as we speak, saying the government has no right to make people take a flu vaccine in our state. And the reason I relay this information to you, if people are freaking protesting the flu vaccine, those same people are going to protest when the COVID vaccine comes out and the government says everyone has to take it. My point is, the vaccine doesn't mean the end-all, be-all of this pandemic because some folks won't take it. Dede Smith, I'm reaching out to you now. I can't wait to chat. Dede, on the I Love CVille show, it's ringing. J-Dubs, we have you on the line. Dede Smith, you have quite a few people watching you as you speak. If we could get, we got the camera turned on. She's looking magnificent. I see the Beatles poster in the background. Dede, you are live for a lot of people. First, I want to say thank you for joining us. Second, I want to say this, Dede. Give us I'll start open-ended. Talk pipeline with us in Albemarle County. The show is yours. I'll respond to your perspective. I did not know this was happening here. I think a lot of people don't know this is happening here, and that's why you're a leader in this community. An $80 million pipeline. Talk to us about what's happening here. Do we have Dede here? I'm not hearing you, Dede. Judah, do we hear you?
Oh, sorry,
Okay.
sorry.
Gotcha.
Turned my mic off so I wouldn't bother you. Good afternoon. Hi there. I hope the rain on my roof doesn't interfere too much. But I appreciate you having me on. I think we are just about to start the big experiment in the school system, and it'll be put your seatbelt on. It's going to be an interesting ride. If you want my take on it,
I do.
It's I've been following it. I don't have any inside information. I'm not a teacher. I've been talking to some teachers, and it's pretty much built on the same kind of caste hierarchy that our schools are built on. You know, if you're well-to-do, if you've got resources at home, you'll probably be just fine. If you don't, you won't. You're going to be left behind like so many kids have been left behind pre-COVID. You know, in pre-COVID, this is fascinating. I was just re-looking this up. In a system that has about 4,000 city students in it, more than 700 of them cannot pass a basic reading test or math test. The numbers are very similar. And in a system that is incredibly well-funded and in a university town. I mean, how can that be? How is that okay? You know, and I had great hopes that in this post-George Floyd era that there would be an awakening. I had hopes after the New York Times article that there would be an awakening, but that response was to hire more enrichment staff who cater to that same, you know, higher caste, you know, families that the system always does. I mean, at some point, this community has to wake up and say, if we don't teach our children to read, we're never going to get out of this mess. And, you know, and of course, people have to want to get out of this mess, which is where this whole idea of caste, and I said that very deliberately. I've used the metaphor, but it's not even a metaphor. It's what our country's built on. But there's a new book. Have you seen it?
No.
By Isabel Wilkerson. I mean, it is fascinating, and the title of the book is Caste. I was actually really happy to see that because I get a lot of grief when I liken our system, you know, where it depends on what family you're born into, whether or not you learn to read. I mean, really, you know, that's a caste system. But she takes this to a level that is so intriguing. And I'll tell Emma, your whole audience, if you haven't seen this book, and if you don't have time to read this book, read chapter 8. It's a blow your mind chapter. It talks a lot about in the 1930s, how the Nazi Germany looked to the United States to model their system on how to, you know, get rid of their untouchables, basically, or, you know, or their, you know, the population, of course, the Jewish population, gay population, the Roma population. I mean, all of those people who ended up, you know, being murdered. But anyway, it's so that alone. But the whole book is interesting. Anyway, that's. I'm sorry.
I'm going to throw this to you here. I'm going to throw this to you here. So we're going to have later in the week, Kelly Jackson's going to join us. Her one of her two daughters is learning virtually through the Covenant School, and she has buku resources, and she's talking about the challenges her daughter is facing despite these buku resources of being in front of a computer screen for 6 hours a day trying to learn and how brutal it is, okay? So we'll let her spotlight that. We're gonna also welcome, I'm gonna reach out to Anwar Allen again. He is running a pod, okay? He's gonna run a pod. So we're gonna get the perspective from someone who's running a pod. We're gonna get the perspective from a mom that has two daughters that are learning virtually at home one daughter that has complicating health issues that really cannot be in a COVID situation. This is the question I have for you. We have a school, all school systems in Virginia will not be accredited for the next few years because of COVID. We have school systems now that are starting back up again virtually. We have, obviously, and I say this all the time, we have the rich getting richer, and we have the poor struggling to stay afloat. It's Darwinistic as all get out here. What are you going to be watching as city schools get rolling here in the fall? What couple of items are you watching, Dede?
Oh, so totally, whether or not they even look at where their children are, particularly those children who are most vulnerable. They know who they are. I mean, most of them are children of color. Of that 700, most of those children are black and brown children. And will they even ask the question, where are you? And will they then give resources? They're talking a lot about giving resources to English children who are English as a second language, very good, and children with special needs. But I say, we have 700 plus children who are not identified as special education, but they have special needs. They need to be able to read and write and do arithmetic to survive in this world. And that's what I'll be looking at. You know, the other really, in the longer term, what I'm really very fascinated with is whether this whole pandemic, and this is true in a lot of other arenas, will it fundamentally change the system? I mean, we're seeing a lot of parents not participating who have choices. And now you've talked about this last time I was on, how the private schools, they're adding grades. I mean, they're expanding. You know, St. Anne's is in. I know that. The day school, I mean, they're doing community, whatever they're called. You know, there's a lot of them, and they're actually offering things that the public schools aren't. And, you know, there's a lot of people who are saying, screw this, I'm going over there. So whether or not what happens to enrollment, I think one of the best things that could happen to our public school system is to lose some of those folks so that the school system isn't always pandering to what, have you seen this podcast? Nice
yes,
White
I have seen that podcast.
Seen that one?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. I mean, this is a fundamental problem in our local schools, is who's being pandered to. And it's, if we could shift, you know, our focus to the real core reason public schools were ever even created, which is to level the playing field, to, you know, enable people who were not born into wealth to be able to acquire it through skills. You have to have the skills. Sorry, you do. So anyway, so I'll be watching that. The other, so that also speaks to enrollment. So the school system has touted for years now, oh, our enrollment's going up, it's going up. We're heavily recruiting county children to come into the school system, which I can't imagine those kids are gonna stay virtually.
Right.
I mean, why?
Right.
Why would you do that? Especially if you're paying, and then the potential loss of others. So where will the enrollment go? Because that, without getting into the weeds, has a lot of implications for some of the current capital projects that were being discussed. So anyway, I'm really curious as to how this will fundamentally change our focus. I'm not optimistic.
I'm not optimistic either. Yeah.
But I can always hope, and we can advocate for those fundamental
Okay, here's a two-part question, and then I want to talk pipeline with you. And we have comments coming in here. In fact, I'll throw this comment to you. Jerry, can you ask your guest, Dede, if this will be seen as potentially the lost generation of kids if education doesn't turn around? So that's a lot to unpack. You can go a lot of ways. Thank you for that question, Grace. What do you think of that topic, Dede?
Oh, I have a very simple answer to that. We've had a lost generation. We have had lost generation after generation after generation, and those lost in my, you know, if I have to guess, that lost generation will grow. But we've had that. Let's wake up. I mean, this has been the problem. If we're concerned about it going forward, let's be concerned about the fact that it's existed all along in big numbers. these aren't little pockets of children. These are huge chunks of children that have been left behind. And we know this. It's not a secret. So yes, I think this will be the lost generation. And I think maybe that will be our wake-up call. Maybe if some of those children who aren't in that demographic that we expect to fail, then maybe that will be the incentive.
You're basically saying this. Are you basically saying this if I'm going to cut to the chase here. Okay, this is me cutting to the chase. If white rich kids are in that demographic and they fail, then that's going to put some external pressure on figuring things out. That's pretty much what you're saying, right?
It is pretty much what I'm saying. I don't love characterizing it as white-black because we're in a lot of mix. We have 50% of our children of African American descent do okay. I mean, we do have to acknowledge that. It's just that 50% not being able to read is a huge number. So I do think just even in that sector who were doing okay, if they start failing, you're right. That's
so
exactly
you're a popular lady. You're a well-respected lady. I have more questions coming in for you. This is from a mom at Beaufort. She says, Jerry, please pass along to your guest. Thank you for everything she's done for Charlottesville and for schools in our area. I'm a mom of 2 in Beaufort. I want to pool our kids, and we're either considering pod or virtual learning. We even considered the private school route, but we could not afford it. Here's what I'm struggling with. If I pull my kids out of schools, will schools not get less funding? And when we return them back to schools, they will be in a worse position than they were off in the first place. Am I reading that correctly? Please ask your guest that question.
Well, first of all, I don't know what's going to happen at the state level because that is actually tied to enrollment. But the city, which provides 75% of the funding from local tax dollars, has made no indication that first of all, that they'll pull any money or that their money is tied to enrollment. It's never been tied to enrollment. They use growing to justify getting more money, but it's never been tied. So I understand that concern, but our school system is so over the top funded well. I think that is not where my biggest concern is, and I totally get that. But yeah, thank you for the question. It's
more questions coming in for you, Dede. This is from another mom here. Please ask your guest this, Jerry. I'm a teacher and a mom of 2 in city schools. I'm leaving the school system to run a pod, and I'm fortunate because my kids will be able to be a part of this pod as well. However, one thing we're not considering is we're losing a year toward our retirement if we go and start doing these pods with city schools. Can you bring this topic up with your guest, Jerry? That's an interesting point that we've brought up here. A lot of the teachers that are going and leaving the schools to teach a pod, Dede, I'm hearing teachers getting $55,000. I'm hearing teachers having no expenses out of pocket, a much smaller student body that they're teaching, smaller classroom. But are they considering the fact that they're not working their way to their 20 and their 30 for their retirement?
Yeah, and I can't speak to that because I don't know the ins and outs. And I was on the school board, so I should, although it was so long ago, I don't remember anymore. What I've seen, I'm on the board of Barrett Early Learning Center, which is a educational child care, and we're open, by the way. But we're being very, 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 very careful in not having those problems. But what we've seen, and I think we'll see this with the K through 12 schools, what we're seeing with these preschool childcare is that the state recognizes all of those things, those bizarre things that are going on. Like, Barrett only has half its enrollment, not because we don't have a huge waiting list, but that keeps us safe. We can social distance, but it doesn't bring in the revenue. So the state and the feds are recognizing that. So I can't believe that all of these things are going to be so commonplace that there'll be a reckoning again. It's sort of a realignment. But when you have this pod thing is fascinating because it was used back when, and this sounds like I'm indicting this parent, and I'm not. I'm just recognizing historically that mode was used when we closed the schools in order to not integrate them in 1959 9 or whatever it was. And teachers taught in small groups in church basements, white kids, and because it was all segregated then anyway. They were trying to prevent integration. So it's a little creepy for some of us to be seeing this again. That's the caste hierarchy, you know, and the teachers being used to or drawn to do that. So so when you talk to your guest about pods, please explore the demographics of them and who's teaching, the quality of who is teaching this pod. There is some organization within some of the public housing to at least have some, you know, volunteer oversight, but a volunteer is not a teacher. And, you know, again, this is just, this whole system permeates the system. It permeated the system before COVID, that those, you know, who already have get the best, and those who don't get the volunteers. Yeah. Kind of thing. I mean, that's
no, but you're right though. She's right.
Oh, general statement. But you know, that's
what's happening. She's 100% right. Yeah, you're 100% right. This is why I like you. She calls it how it is. And this is why she makes a phenomenal interview. Okay, so you have some important people watching here. You have 2 city councilors watching you now, current. You have 1 board of supervisor watching you right now. Number 3 at City Hall is now watching you right now on the show. So I want to shift gears here and talk about this potential pipeline. $80 million. Dede, I follow the news as closely as anybody, and this under my radar. So if this is under the radar of a guy that's talking local news every single day, that means the majority of people have no idea what is happening here. Can you educate us? And I know we're on a time crunch here. Educate us on what's happening with the pipeline here.
Let me see if I can put this in a nutshell, because this came up when back in the early 2000s when we had the huge crisis of the drought, 2002 drought, community water plan. There were 9 public meetings about how to address this. And in the 9th meeting, so then everybody sort of, the Rivanna Water and Sewer Authority settled on raising the Ragged Mountain Dam 45 feet higher, enlarging that whole reservoir to solve the problem. The Nature Conservancy was working hand in hand with them. They computer modeled it. It worked, to do this and this and this. But there was a lot of opposition because it was using the cleanest water we have, but the smallest river. And so in order to get those people on board, at the last meeting, at the 9th meeting, out of 9 out of 9, Rivanna introduced this idea that they would include a 9-mile, 36-inch wide pipeline that cuts across Albemarle County, connecting the South Fork with Ragged Mountain, and fill it that way instead of from this small river. And everybody was thrilled. The only problem is it was so outrageously expensive. It doubled the cost of the plan. And nobody asked that. I don't know why. I mean, it was obvious to some of us. I was involved in this. Like, that's crazy. A year later, Rivanna came and said, oops, sorry, can't do it. It's too expensive. But we can do it later when we need it. We don't need it now. We're talking about protecting ourselves from drought 50 years from now. We don't need it now. We'll build it when we need it. We'll raise the dam and we'll do all that other stuff like we were going to, but we'll build that pipeline later. Well, the bottom line is that we've just had a new study analysis, and it shows that that pipeline will not be needed for at least now another 50, 60, 70 years, but they want to build it in 7. And the problem is it costs $80 million, and the people who will pay for this, here's another George Floyd moment. The people who will pay for it are the water rate payers in the city and the urban ring. And it will go $80 million debt will go on their water bills for something that is not needed for 50, 60, maybe never. But there's a whole lot of people who want this pipeline for reasons that really have nothing to do
besides money.
Drought protection.
Right?
Yeah, it all comes down to money. It always comes down to money. So it's really the fact that they're fast tracking this, and the financial impact is not being talked about. I mean, no, there was a huge community meeting back when they said we can't afford it, and the graphs were horrifying, but they're not showing those anymore. And so I just want people to really pay attention. And it came up on City Council's agenda because they need to give an easement on land they own for this pipeline. And so I went to them and I said, excuse me, you might want to ask some questions because you all of a sudden are being put in a position of power here.
They have the leverage. They have the leverage.
Say over whether your people are going to pay for an $80 million pipeline. You're already losing people because they can't afford to live here. Water rates are already pretty high. And but they're all going like, I don't know anything about this. I don't know anything about this, and, but they say we need it. We don't need it. It's a want, not a need. So, there's lots of evidence for this. So that's why, and I spoke before the Rivanna board and, said the same thing. I said, we have a whole language now for funding. Whoops, sorry. I'm not sure you're saying that. Go away. I've got something on my screen. Anyway, sorry. You probably couldn't see that, but I could. For, this kind of policy that makes people who are disproportionately low income, we're talking city and urban ring. That's what we're talking. It's a segment of the population who we know are disproportionately lower income than the surrounding population and disproportionately minority. And they're going to pay for this $80 million pipeline that isn't even needed, may never be needed. But they're saying, well, look, it might be needed over there. But anyway, it's a much bigger story than that. But that's the bottom line is I'm saying ask questions, City Council. This is your responsibility. It is not Rivanna's responsibility. It is not theirs to look after the racial justice in policies. It's just not. And that's where we have teamwork. The city and the county. I mean, the bizarre thing is the county actually pays for a bigger chunk of this. So it's the people in the urban ring who are in the county. They're the real losers. But I care about them too. Yeah. It's not like, oh, it's not in my backyard. It's not on my bill. It's just fundamentally unjust to say that these people need to pay for this enormous, and that's not even getting into the pipeline itself issues, the 40 easements that nothing can be built on, cutting across Albemarle County, and they're going to go next to roads, which means you can't build anything, you can't plant anything. I mean, except for small little shrubs or something, forever, because it's an easement. Anyway, it's, as I say, I was very involved in that, as people who know me know, that environmental issue back in the early 2000s. I know a lot about it, and I'm just a data person, so I have huge amounts of records and timelines, and I'm just, they just cringe when they see me. I think, oh no. And she's going to show us all of this evidence. Oh no.
This is why I love you.
The thing is that, this is Rivanna's director, who I really like. He was not here then. And he's a smart guy. He grew up here. So he kind of came back. And so he's really great. He'll talk to me, for an hour here and there about this. But he obviously, he wasn't here for this. So he has to follow his board. But, I'm just really hoping that, that there'll be more information about financing, how it's going to be financed.
Hey, Dede, you are an exceptional interview. Seriously, like a breath of fresh air. The reason I like you is because you call it how you see it. I mean, you don't beat around the bush, and that's an attribute that I wish everyone had. Thank you kindly for joining us. I'll reach out again. You have a good one, Dede. All right, Dede Smith, boys and girls. We'll follow that pipeline closely on the I Love CVille show. $80 million for a pipeline we don't need right now. That's going to be covered. The cost of the pipeline is going to be disproportionately covered by folks that are already living on the margin. That is no bueno. That right there sounds like another way to gentrify a community. Let's raise real estate taxes. Let's put a pipeline through there. That's another way to gentrify a community. Former Vice Mayor Dede Smith and City Councilor on the show. Jude, I got Keith Smith on the line. Keith Smith, you are live across the Commonwealth in Charlottesville. Hello, how are you?
That was, if you can see my notes, I'm trying to feverishly take notes. It must be a Smith thing, right? That just the awesomeness on Smith. But that was some interview. I didn't even know where to take it after that.
From one really smart person, Dede Smith, to another really smart person named Keith Smith.
Let's get carried away here.
How? Okay, my friend. Before we preview tomorrow's show,
Sure.
the weekend that was, my friend. How was the weekend?
So the weekend was really good. A lot of property being back and forth. But, you know, when you started the show today, you were talking about Charlottesville and a couple different things. So I did some quick notes and some numbers and compared the month of August this year with the month of August last year. I think that'd be a good thing just in the city of Charlottesville. So just to put it down into the sold end of it, this year we had, on the month of August, we had 126 units sold. Days on market was around 20. Median sales price was $419. So would you want to take a guess what it was in 2019?
2019, I'm maybe around 4?
340.
Stop it! It has gone up $79,000?
Well, I rounded it up to 80, but anyway.
Good Lord!
Yeah, so, and it's interesting, same number of units sold. 125 sold in 19, it was 126. So this is August versus August.
So
right?
what does
Just
that tell
sold.
you, Keith?
Well, what that's telling me is what we've been talking about is people are, two things. People are not moving out of the city, or the city market is strong. It is strong. You know, everybody was talking about with COVID, people were moving out. The numbers are not validating that. And, you know, I did some quick math. That's almost 25% month over month, year over year increase. So I don't know if those trends are going on. These are really quick snapshots on it. But, you know, we will keep a trend on it. And so I decided to focus on Charlottesville since you were talking about Charlottesville so much during the show.
That's
today.
a great stat, Keith. I mean, it just shows the fact that this community is getting more and more unaffordable.
Well, we'll definitely talk about that during future shows. We're bringing in the land trust and figuring out a way to go ahead and work on that. Another interesting thing, the days on market were pretty darn close. 30 days versus 27. So it was 30 and 20, 27 and 19. So for the most part, same spot of sales, same DOMs, that days on markets, but almost an 80 grand difference year over year. So, I mean, that was a pretty quick set of numbers put together, but I figured I'd share that with you because you were talking about that.
I appreciate that. Keith Smith, guys, the Yes Team Realtors. His show, Real Talk, airs Tuesdays and Fridays on the I Love CVille Network. Tuesdays and Fridays at 10:15 a.m., where it's insiders look to real estate life in the pursuit of happiness. My friend, you're making us smarter. What else is in that notebook or on that brain of yours?
So we started a pretty awesome subject on Friday, and that subject was, we have 30,000 unemployed, but why are certain business folks telling me and telling you they can't hire folks? So I'm in the process of lining up some pretty good rock stars for Friday. We mentioned a few names on our Friday show, so we're working on bringing a couple of folks in remotely to say, okay, why is that, right? What's going on? Why are those two numbers not equaling up, or those two facts not equaling up? So I've been super excited. I've been working all day on putting some people together. So I think folks are going to want to hear, you know, these folks thinking on why is that the case.
So
I'm excited about that.
The response that I'm hearing from some folks who are choosing to stay unemployed, 30,000 without a job. The Central Virginia in totality about 300,000 people. So 10% of our community without a job now. Some of the folks that are not working are saying that they're getting more from the government guaranteed. Why would they go to work?
So Jerry, that number 10% is much higher than that, right? So 30,000 is the total population. You got to take out
kids,
kids,
the elderly,
old people. Like us.
You weren't, Keith. Stop it. You're so ridiculous.
Right? But, you know.
Stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home dads?
So I suspect that 10% is much larger a much larger number. Not I suspect, I know it is. What exactly it is, I don't know. But it's still, the fact is 30,000 people out of work, and maybe some of it is what you said. The feedback I'm getting from the experts on it is it's a lack of skilled labor or skilled folks, carpenters, plumbers, electricians, those kind of things, planners, people with engineering degrees and surveyors, and a mutual friend of ours, they can't find CDL drivers, right? Xavier,
Andre
right?
Xavier, CVille Hop on Tour.
That's exactly right. He's looking for CDLs and he can't find them. So, you know, we're going to take a deep dive in that. On tomorrow, we've got a rock star of a restaurateur.
Woo!
If I said that right, coming in. Look at that, huh? Practiced that for 4 hours today. And so we're bringing a rock star on. We're going to talk about secret recipes or not, and then talk a little bit about debunking some buyer trends. Buyers are having to reset their thinking. So we're gonna walk through that.
This guy's got Angelique Hawkins from Angelique's Kitchen on the show tomorrow on Real Talk at 10:15 a.m. tomorrow. Angelique is opening up a location in Dairy Market, a stall in Chris Henry's development on Preston Avenue. Let me throw this question to you. I've been meaning to pick your brain about this, okay?
Uh-oh.
And you know this as well as I do because you've been in this area longer than me. You got here, was it 89 you got here?
87.
Okay, 87. So Keith, anywhere you want to go on this topic, okay? This is going to be a touchy topic for you.
You better not bring up
I'm
Bodos.
bringing up Bodos.
The chemistry just
I am bringing up Bodos. I know, it's like blasphemy to say anything bad about this brand. Dude, I was going down Preston Avenue on Sunday. The line was down the street and literally down Preston Avenue. I'm talking like 2.5 blocks down Preston Avenue, Keith. No one could use the right lane going from the downtown mall. I was working, going from the downtown mall to say like Shenandoah Joe's, or from like the downtown mall to Barracks Road. You go down Preston Avenue. The entire right lane was closed because of Bodo's drive-through traffic. Anywhere you want to go on this topic, Keith Smith.
Well, I can't because I'm a New Yorker. And what is most sacred
Bagels.
to New Yorkers?
So you don't want to see what's your take on this? What's your take on this?
Yeah, be careful and get your damn bagels.
He's right. He's right. I got to be careful here. I just thought it was,
I just want to know why you don't bring me any. I'm just saying.
I'll break.
But yeah, but I mean, a true thing about Bodo's, you know, our oldest daughter lives up in New York, and when we go up to visit her, I get, you know, a text or phone call, bring Bodo's bagels. I mean, it is a sacred thing. And, you know, my answer is just be careful. Make sure you don't get your bagels. Get a little schmear on it, a little bit of lox on it.
Let me throw this topic to you. Okay, you know this one well. This is not tied to Bodo's here. How about...
So did I dance around the bagel
You danced around that really well. You basically said a lot of stuff that did not answer the question whatsoever. All right, so I'm gonna try a different approach, my friend. How about the whole concept of getting a permit for a drive-through? I mean, that is a brutal process, right?
We're still talking about
bagels?
No,
we're talking about drive-thrus now, just drive-thrus in general. Because you have a consulting company where you help businesses go through the permitting process.
Yeah, so, but it's not just drive-ins and all. The process is just...
It's brutal.
Brutal. So we had this conversation with Elizabeth Cromwell on Friday, right? So, you know, so one of the great things about the Project Rebound and the infrastructure project I was on was working on this red tape, green tape. So one of the things, we didn't get an opportunity to talk about it on Friday, there is a public-private group coming together between the private sector, you know, the planners, the developers, that kind of thing, and the city and the county to say, okay, how can we turn this from, you know, red tape, which means stop, to green tape means go. So the good news is there's conversations happening, but it does take, I mean, I think I've told you this before, one of my first developments I ever did was 150 lots, central water and sewer, curb and gutter, yada, 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 in an adjoining county, and it took me between 3 to 4 months to get it approved and put a bulldozer on the job site. Now it's about that many years. 3 to 5 years, somewhere along those lines. So I think one of the great things about it's horrible even to say this, but one of the good things or one of the positive things come out of COVID and this conversation that happened in these groups with the private sector and the public sector and even the nonprofits, everybody understood this. Because even the nonprofits were saying, look, I chair one, right? We're trying to make some magic happen, right? We're trying to do some magic around Dairy Central. And the process to go through the SUP, special use permit process, all this stuff is so laborious and so problematic. It just discourages people from actually doing something. So unfortunately, I don't discourage that easily. So we're full speed.
And that's why he's the 8-figure realtor. That's why he's successful. Keith Smith of the Yes Team Realtors. Keith and Jonas Smith, trusted advisors in the game. Keith, the hardest question I'm going to ask you. Are you ready?
I thought Bagels was
Keith
hard.
Smith.
Can't get any harder than
Keith
that.
Smith, what's your order at Bodo's Bagels?
Oh. Wow. So that depends on the time of the day.
Okay.
That's very important. In the morning, it's a bacon, egg, and cheese on a sesame. What do you do yours on?
I like a bacon, egg, and cheese on a sesame or everything. So shockingly, we're ordering the same damn food. That's terrifying. We spend entirely too much time together.
So what's your favorite lunch?
On lunch, I will do the I'll do ham, Swiss, tomato, bacon on a plain with the side Caesar salad.
So you and I diverge at that
Where do
point.
you go for lunch? You getting the locks?
No, I do not. So if you know anything about, so I bet you your wife knows the answer to this.
Okay.
Any decent New Yorker loves a good chicken salad. And their chicken salad, I do a chicken salad on sesame, slice of American cheese, and a tomato.
So you like your chicken salad chunked and not shredded? You like it chunked?
I do.
Okay, I like it, Keith Smith. How about your beautiful
Nice
your beautiful 7/8? What is she getting?
You know, she would
you
order.
better know what your wife gets from Bodo's.
Okay, look, 1:36. Gotta go. Bye-bye. No, yeah, I gotta go. See you later.
She's downstairs.
You're trying to get my ass in trouble.
She's over there.
I'm gonna remember this tomorrow on the show.
I know you
Mrs.
will.
Miller, I know she watches too.
She's watching right now, yeah.
I will tell you, breakfast I know for sure because Yona doesn't do bacon, so it'll be just egg and cheese, and that typically on a sesame is a poppy.
Did she just say poppy? Did she just scream it from downstairs? She did scream it from downstairs. I love this man. Keith Smith, Tuesdays and Fridays, 10:15 a.m. Real Talk presented by the Yes Team Realtors. Smith, I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Okay, Miller. See you tomorrow.
Have a good one,
Thanks,
Keith. Hey, have a good one.
You too. Will do.
Bye, buddy.
Ditto. Catch you later.
Love that guy. Keith Smith, boys and girls. Give the show a like and a share. Give it a like and a share. Give it a like and a share. Thank you, Dede Smith. Thank you, Keith Smith. If you want to hear this show, we archive it everywhere. We archive it on YouTube, on Spotify, on iTunes, on Apple Podcasts. We archive it on ilovecville.com. We archive it on YouTube. We do a version of this show on Instagram. We do a version of this show on LinkedIn, on Snapchat, on Twitter. This network reaches more people than the news networks in town. Do you realize that? Because we put the show on these things and on social platforms that you use every day as opposed to a box in front of a couch. Give the show a like and a share, a like and a share. All right, Judah, we got a couple more headlines we got to get to, and I have an important meeting in approximately 19 minutes. Alabama headline, Judah. Did you see this headline? And thank you to my wife for sending this headline to me. The University of Alabama, yes, Roll Tide. Yes, Tuscaloosa. Yes, Nick Saban. Yes, the national champion, Alabama Crimson Tide, one of the best football programs in the history of football. The University of Alabama's administration literally is telling its professors to not tell students about COVID-infected classmates. An email circulating from leadership at Alabama to the professors at Alabama said, and it underlined the word not. Do not tell students if their classmates have been infected. Good Lord. The Daily Beast has this email, and it's now circulating across the national media as we speak. Of course, one of the professors at Alabama leaked this email to the media, and now the media is having a field day. Let me give Jim Ryan and the presidents of colleges across America a little optics PR 101 strategy. Leadership among universities. Guys, this applies to anyone, anywhere, in any field, at any time, in any century. If you're going to roll out a strategy that can be manipulated or roll out by the media, roll out a strategy that is just not honest, or roll out a strategy that is not in the betterment or the best of your constituents, of your customers, or your students, if you're going to still roll this strategy out, it's best to speak the strategy to your team members. Don't create a paper trail. Don't put it in writing. Don't write it. Don't send a memo. Don't send a fax. Don't send an email. Don't write a letter. Speak it to your professors so there's not a paper trail. Here's the question I have before we go to the next headline. If the University of Alabama has ordered its professors, like the email that's been leaked to the national media, if the University of Alabama is ordering its professors not to tell its students that there are other infected students in their class, does that not open up the University of Alabama to tremendous legal lawsuit exposure? I would think it would. My mom and dad send little Johnny or little Jerry or little Jeffrey or little Judah or little Lucy or little Leo or little Lauren or little Trey to Alabama for 4 years of college. And if my mom and dad find out that the college straight up is saying we're not going to tell students that the kid they're sitting next to has COVID, that wouldn't go well with mommy and daddy of little Jerry. And I can assure you, other parents are feeling the same way. Next headline, Apple and Tesla did a stock split today. Look at what's happening on Wall Street. Apple and Tesla, their market capitalizations through the roof. I personally own both. Apple did a 4-to-1 stock split today. These companies are game-changing companies. Tesla did a 5-to-1 stock split today. They took a stock that traded for over $2,000 a share down to about $400 a share. Apple took a stock that was trading at roughly $500 a share to $125 a share. I own a lot of Tesla and Apple. I've said many times on this program, can you think of a company in 2020 that has had more of a profound generational impact on the world than Apple? Seriously, can you think of a company in the last 20 or 25 years that has had more of a profound impact on the world than a company that created the iPhone? Seriously. This damn thing, I have one here, I have one over there, we have 3 iPads, I have a MacBook Air right here, the director, studio camera, Judah. Let's just go over, put studio camera here. Let's go over how many Apple products we have on the I Love CVille network. Judah has an iPhone, that's 1. I have an iPhone, that's 2. I have an iPhone over there, that's 3. MacBook Air, 4. The Mac that he's using, 5. 3 iPads to stream to these TVs, that's 8. 3 Apple TVs to stream to these TVs, that's 11. I mean, just, what am I missing, Judah? Just here alone, we have 11 individual products from Apple. Today they did a stock split to make their stock more approachable at $1.25 a share versus $400. Frankly speaking, if you're doing fractional shares trading, the stock split is not that important to you. If you're trading through a platform like Merrill Edge that does not offer fractional shares trading, I use Merrill Edge. Maybe this is a bonus to you. Both stocks spiking and popping thanks to the stock split today. Apple, the most influential and impactful brand, at least over the last 20 or 25 years in America. Notre Dame football, let's go to football quickly. Notre Dame, who's playing as a member of the ACC, announces today that it's going to allow, what, 20% capacity? Is that what it was? And it stands? I'm going to say this again. I'm going to say this again on today's show. Scott Stadium and UVA are allowing 999 people for home football games. Lane Stadium in Blacksburg for Virginia Tech are allowing 999 people for home football games. Notre Dame is playing as a ACC school, and Notre Dame, boys and girls, is allowing 20% capacity for home football games. That means the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, who are playing as an ACC school, can have in their home football games 17,000 people. 17,000. So if Notre Dame has 17,000 for home football games, the Miami Hurricanes are having roughly 14,000 for home football games, and UVA and Virginia Tech are having 999. Whose home field advantage is more fierce during a COVID time? It's just not democratic and equitable across the board. The next headline quickly, NC State has restarted fall practice again. NC State football, they took a pause from COVID because of COVID outbreaks in Raleigh. It impacted the schedule where their opener against Virginia Tech was postponed. NC State has now restarted football and fall sports practice again. So we'll follow what happens in Raleigh. Remember, UNC in September, North Carolina Chapel Hill is playing home football games in September with 0 fans. You have UNC with 0 fans at home, and you have Notre Dame with 17,000 fans at home. How's that fair? How's that fair? Judah, let's show them how they can save $288 on TIG fiber internet. We heard from the folks at Ting today. This campaign that we're offering through the I Love CVille Network is resulting in more signups than they ever anticipated. They are very, very happy with Jerry Miller and with I Love CVille. And you should be signing up for the best internet possible. I'm going to say this again. This is the lowest price you can get for the best internet possible at a day and age where the best internet possible is paramount for your everyday life. Kids learning virtually, mom and dad working home, Zoom rooms. Save $288 only through this link, ilovecville.ting.com. All right, we're going to introduce a new segment on today's show, and if this segment goes according to plan, we're going to roll this segment out into its individual programming, much like the I Love CVille Daily Digest. If you like the I Love CVille Show, we do the I Love CVille Show in 5 minutes or less, Monday through Friday, at 5 p.m. on the I Love CVille Network. And folks, this new I Love CVille Daily Digest that we've rolled out is freaking exploding in popularity, and I have businesses contacting us left and right to have their brand and their call to action message associated with the I Love CVille Daily Digest. As an entrepreneur, as a visionary, as someone that reads the tea leaves, that's a cautious optimist, that created a network before COVID that prioritized virtual and live streaming, and then when COVID-19 hit and everyone went to virtual and live streaming, we've been doing it for 18 months. This is a piece of cake. Everything's set up for success for us. The next popular item that we're going to roll out is crystal ball predictions. So on this show, I'm going to give you an idea of what crystal ball predictions are going to look like. I'm going to give you an idea of the companies we're investing in from a Wall Street standpoint, where our portfolio is up 42% since COVID hit. I'm going to give you an idea of the businesses that you should get going if you're looking to become an entrepreneur. I'm going to give you an idea of the trends I'm seeing at bigger markets that are going to trickle down to Charlottesville. I'm going to give you an idea of real estate hot pockets that you can get involved in or invest in and make some ROI. And I'm going to make you some predictions of the Charlottesville market and where it's going to go. So get ready for Jerry Miller's crystal ball predictions on the I Love CVille Show. And if it goes according to plan, This is going to be rolled out into its own standalone content and its own standalone show for your business to be a part of. So some crystal ball predictions that I think, just off the top of my head, I think we're going to start seeing new businesses coming into the Charlottesville downtown mall, and those businesses are going to be less brick and mortar retail and more office space. And this office space is going to be for collaboration. It's going to be an opportunity for team members to come and meet, brainstorm ideas, and then head to their respective Zoom rooms at home to flush those ideas out. So I think you'll see downtown pivot into more office collaboration and less brick and mortar retail as businesses continue to shutter their doors. I think you're going to see a stock like Apple pop because its stock price becomes more affordable and becomes more ubiquitous, and because it appeals more to the masses. I think you're going to start seeing, and I hate to say this, local municipalities in CVille and Albemarle County maybe start to drop the hammer a little bit on pop-up drive-thrus at Bodo's Bagels. Time will tell. I think you're going to see virtual learning at the University of Virginia way sooner than we ever expected. I put the over-under for virtual learning at UVA at September 30th. That University of Virginia will go virtual by September 30th, and I got $250 on the under. Jerry Miller's crystal ball predictions? That's going to happen a hell of a lot faster than we thought. Look at the COVID dashboard from the University of Virginia. So, moving forward on this show, at the bottom of every show, I'm going to give you 4 to 5 really strong predictions and get your take on what you think is going to happen on the I Love CVille show. Give it a like and a share. Give it a like and a share. If you have any perspective you want to share on the show, now is the time to do it. I'm going to give you some insight into who's coming up on the program this coming week. Scott Aaronworth, one of the biggest foodies in Charlottesville history, will join us at the end of the week as he talks about some of his favorite places to eat food around Charlottesville and Central Virginia. We're going to reach out to Big Ray Cadell to talk music at the end of this week. We're going to have boys and girls reach out to Anwar Allen and his wife as they create a pod, or as they manage a pod in the city of Charlottesville. We have Scott Link on tomorrow's show from Rocket Coffee. Also on tomorrow's show, Crystal Napier is going to join us, a fabulous black-owned entrepreneur who owns a fabulous business, and she's having success as not only in a COVID time, but she's having success in a retail standpoint in COVID. So that topic is going to come up on the I Love CVille show. Let me get to some comments. Cully, thank you, Cully, for saying that. He says, I look forward to hearing your new crystal ball segment, Jerry. It's going to be good. I will watch it closely. He says, we are doing our best to bring the concert venues to the drive-in. It seems to be a new way for people to enjoy movies. Cully Baggett out of Greene County is doing drive-through movies. He's setting up drive-through movies across Central Virginia for our personal enjoyment. Barbara Lundgren says, just wait until they have parking lot parties at the hotel rooms. She's speaking about students now moving into hotel rooms because they're getting kicked off grounds in student housing at the University of Virginia. Fried Chicken Alley, the same way, from Johnny Ornalis. There's two very competitive, there's two very busy drive-thrus. Fried Chicken Alley on Route 29 and the Bodo's Pop-Ups, drive-thrus that are extending onto Route 29 into Preston Avenue, respectively. Andy Wilfong, he says, if the college did the testing for the students, would that be considered a HIPAA violation if the college has released personal COVID patient info? That's a good question, Andy. That is a good question. However, if I was in a classroom and I was sitting next to somebody who was positive for COVID, I would want to know that. Gary Grant also echoes Andy's statement. He says that could be a HIPAA violation. This is probably why Alabama told their professors not to talk about student health to other students. Are we not putting our students in a precarious position by not telling them that the students they're sitting next to have COVID? Olivia Branch says the Starbucks on Pantops spills onto the road as well. She's exactly right. I live on the east side of Albemarle County in Glenmore. I drive by the Pantops Starbucks all the time. The Starbucks on Pantops is freaking brutal from a traffic standpoint and routinely spilling into the giant shopping center. This is the question I have for Charlottesville and Central Virginia. And this question will legitimately make me an unpopular person, yet I still ask the question. If a Starbucks and a Chick-fil-A and a Panera Bread, if they have to go through months, if not years, of permitting and planning to get a drive-through, months, if not years, thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars, the opportunity cost of getting permitting for a drive-through for a Chick-fil-A, a Panera Bread, or a Starbucks is astronomical. How is it equitable and fair if the city of Charlottesville and if Albemarle County make Panera and Starbucks and Chick-fil-A go through months, if not years, of permitting and tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds, to get a drive-through, yet a pop-up can spring out of nowhere on Preston Avenue on Route 29? How is that equitable or fair? And do you realize the courage or the cojones you have to say to make that statement in front of tens of thousands of people on a show like this? People who freaking love, I love Bodos. I love Bodos. But it's not equitable, and it's not fair. And it's going to lead to an accident. And it's going to take a collision that endangers people's lives before City Hall or Albemarle County's municipality working building do something. That's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. I'm Jerry Miller. This is the I Love CVille Show. Thank you for joining us on a gorgeous, gorgeous Monday across Charlottesville and Central Virginia. You guys be easy.